What's up, family? Welcome to episode 15 of Men versus Ego, Arrogance versus Humility. I have a pleasure of introducing an old friend of mine, an old mentor, an old leader of mine. Not really old, he's still living his best life, but he's retired now. Without further ado, pleasure to introduce Mr. Tirado.
Hey, what's up, brother? What's going on? Sergeant G.
What's up, Sarn? What's happening?
Hey, all is good. All is good. Very happy. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I've been since you sent it to me. I said, "Oh wow, this is great." It makes me feel very happy and just to see one of my brothers in arms. Since you were younger than me, I felt like I saw the whole progression, and I seen that your career has gone places, and
Yeah.
it just bring a lot of joy, man. Bring a lot of joy seeing you, all the stuff you're doing, seeing you growing, not only as a NCO in the United States Army, but as a man of value and a person who bring value to others. And this on podcast, it does that. It serve as a public service to everybody who want to watch it and stay tuned and learn from what you're bringing on and all your guests. So I'm very happy and glad to be here and honored to be among your people here in your podcast,
No,
Man
thank
versus
you.
Ego.
No, thank you for those kind words, Sarento. I really appreciate you, and thank you for saying yes when we talked. And I'm blessed to I've known you for over 10 years now, and
Mhm.
your character hasn't changed. I know you know a lot about a lot, and I look forward to talking about these two topics, arrogance and humility. And we see podcasts talk about funny stuff all the time, but I'm more into personal growth, and I want to if I can leave a person with something to take with them for the rest of their lives, hey, that's mission accomplished. And what better way to leave that with when people like you, Sargento. Thank you so much for saying yes. And if you want to keep introducing yourself, a little bit of your background and where you're from and all that stuff.
Okay, so since we have a little bit of time, I served in the United States Army for over 2 decades. I was a Bradley crew member for most of my time in the Army and have a lot of opportunities to work in operational side of the house, the S3, G3, opportunity, things like that. Also, I see you have gone to recruiting as well. And probably one of the best duties I ever had was doing my time as a recruiter in the United States Army recruiter. And so that essentially, how I came up from in the United States Army. So I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm here in Texas via Puerto Rico, however you want to say it, via the
PR,
Army.
PR, PR,
And
baby.
we are, baby. Yeah. So it's always great to connect with other Hispanic in the Army. And you were one of those good friends. I mean, from this very first day that we just hit it up, man. So it was good. So I've been studying leadership and psychology for over almost 30 years now. And really that's one of my biggest passion, as you mentioned. So for my master's, my focus is in industrial psychology or industrial organizational psychology, which essentially what I do is make an organization better through psychology, through psychoanalysis, through that a tool that I call DISC. Basically, we study behavior, how people behave within a team. So I'm very passionate about helping team become better, and that's my passion, team dynamics, and I do it through industrial psychology best practices, and of course a lot of my core is my experience in the United States Army. So it's like an interesting combination to me. It's like industrial psychology best practices and the best practices from the United States Army leadership practices. So
No, thank
that's
you, Sergeant.
essentially, on the nutshell.
Thank you for introducing yourself, and thank you for filling us in, filling the viewers in on what type of great person that we have on today. If it's cool with you, Sergeant, let's get it started. Our definition of arrogance and humility. Go ahead. What is that?
Man, so the definition of humility, man, we can be here like forever in the day. But when you look at humility and arrogance, yeah. So it's very simple to see it, internal and external. That's the way I look at it. Somebody who is an arrogant is essentially the external. I want to display things. I want to be the best. I want to be look at me, who I am and what I do. And the humble personal humility is all more about the internal and that psychology and that whole philosophy in your spirit, how you come across. So for me, the way that I understand, the humility had more strength than arrogance. So humility, we had a saying back in the island, don't confuse the milk with the magnesia, right? So magnesia milk is not the
Yeah,
same as a regular milk. So humility is not being weak. Okay. So an arrogance doesn't mean confidence. And a lot of times people who think they are confident, they become or they project it as being arrogance. And I think that's, a thin line between I'm confident and I'm arrogant. You can be confident, but you can still be humble and project humility and how we project humility many ways. Being good for to receive feedback. Don't get attitude or violence or whatever the case may be. So to me, that's how I look at it. Humility and arrogance, internal, external. Humility is, you have all your values and you project those values. And arrogance, you want to project being grandiose when,
yeah.
you may not necessarily be all that. You can be good, but we're not good at everything we do. And that's when humility will grant.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. You can still learn a lot. But when you're arrogant, it stops right there. And God forbid someone tries to teach you something that you don't know. My gosh. You know that ego comes out. That no, you can't tell me that.
Yes.
I know this already. What are you talking to? I'm the best. I have this badge. I'm number one. Who are you?
Hmm.
I like to quote Dr. Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you ever read his book,
Ooh, yes, sir.
12
Yes,
rules
yes,
for
yes.
life. One of the rules, I think is rule 9, is assume that the person you're listening to might know something that you don't. Always
Hmm.
keep that humble humility inside of you to know that you don't know everything. Not even the great Stoic philosopher Seneca. Not even he knew everything. Aristotle didn't know everything. These famous people in the past, Sargento, not to cut you off, Sargento, but like
No, no, no. Please do.
this is what we're here for, right? We're here for personal growth and opening our mind to something from the lowest person at the job in the totem pole to the very top CEO. We can all learn something from them. Not because we're on top of them means that, oh, my arrogance, I'm number one, you know? So for me, it's always keep learning, always. You never stop.
Always.
No matter how old you are, how young you are, you're always gonna learn something new.
I gotta tell you, like one reason that I always levitate towards you and the group of guys that were young at the time that you came in into the army. I always levitate towards you guys because I don't know what it is, but I think that young people always bring a lot to the table. As we get older, quote unquote, or more mature, whatever you want to call it, we sit on our ways, and then when you sit on your ways, then you become stagnant. And then if you will use the analogy of the blood veins or the river, once that river becomes stagnant, it's gonna dry out. Whenever your blood becomes stagnant, you die. So
100%.
what better way to keep that blood going with whatever nuance that young people bring and that's to me is important. I like how you mentioned that because as you get older, you think you know everything, and you don't want to listen to anybody. And you mentioned listening, and I'm a firm believer that listening is an illusion. It's something that I'm telling you. You are interpreting what I said based on your personal experience, and then you're going to process that, and then it is the hope that you give me a feedback, and then that feedback you're giving me again is another illusion that I'm thinking this is what I meant to say. He said it this way. I think we connecting, right? We're kicking it or not, and that's why it's important the whole listening and like as you mentioned, the power of listening, the power of learning and leading without ego is super important. And I know this man versus ego. I have to say it. According to Freud, he determined that we have, let's say, three types of egos, right? You had the ego, and the super ego. the ego regulates, or the ego is in between the two. Let's use an analogy of, as we see in the cartoons, maybe you have the person, you have the little angel on one shoulder, and you have the little devil on the other shoulder, right? So that little devil or evil person or evil thoughts is that is primal. That's like 2 years old and younger. And when you don't know how to speak, you react. I'm hungry, I cry. You took my toy, I kick. You want to take the toy, I punch. So that's the it. And then as you grow older, then you start developing your ego. And this is according to Freud. And I know it's gonna be, more nuanced, but just for the purpose of this illustration, as you start growing older through society, through your parents, school, and different, you start learning there are regulations and there are laws and everything like that. Then you learn how to behave and start pushing that it away, right? And how Freud defined it is that he defined it as a intentional drive. You drive
Intentional
with your
drive. Okay.
intentional drive, yes. And then that intentional drive fights against the super ego, which is the moral conscience. And then in the middle is us, right? Like perhaps our conscience or our logical thinking. Okay, if I do this, if I act in accordance to the it, what are the consequences? What are the trouble? And then you have the super conscious, the super ego telling you the ideal, the somewhat the perfect world. And we know we don't live in a perfect world. That's why when they say, oh, checks and balance and check your ego, he's egocentric or whatever the case may be, is because maybe that person is more into the it and he's paying more attention to the it. And we are at any given time, we had in any of the spectrum. It's not like I'm growing older and the it is no more. No,
Yeah.
it's gonna be with us. It's innately. So sometimes you have to react. That's natural. Let's say, for instance, you feel threat, right? You heard the whole saying, freeze, flight, or flight. What you do? Sometimes you react, sometimes you freeze. So that reaction could be from your intentional, right? So,
Yeah.
but sometimes you cannot let that get in the way because that can get you in trouble and you can make a wrong decision. That's why, like in the army, we always use the decision making process. Well, that's critical. And to make critical decision, you need data, you need information so you can checks and balance, right? You can bounce off idea, say, okay, maybe I can project if I go this way, this will be a risk or not. And while all this happening is in between your ego and the super ego to make it work. I kind of want to mention, since this is a show about ego, so I want to give my 2 cents on that.
Of course, of course. And I would say the military decision making process, MDMP, it comes in handy when it comes in handy in making decisions,
Hmm.
like you were
Oh yeah.
saying, especially when you get to that higher echelon in any company or military or any business that you run or your boss or whoever we work with. Thank you for sharing that. Do you think confidence is arrogance, or is arrogance different from confidence? Like you mentioned it earlier, just because you're confident, you don't have to be arrogant about it. Is that right?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, for me, if you're confident, that means you know your stuff. But if you're humble, you'll know when you don't know. And you probably remember when I was still in uniform, they come to me, hey, son, what about this? Now, many, especially me coming from the Bradley world of right? Short
Yeah.
range air defense. I have a Stinger and a Bradley fighting vehicle, mechanized, and going to you guys, big rockets or whatever. It was a lot. It was like 90% of the questions you will ask me, I would not know. And what I say, I don't know, but we find out together. We learn together. I don't know, but I know so and so who is expert on this. Let me visit. Or
Yeah.
what do you think? So I think that's important that we always display that. Yeah, and I was very confident as an NCO, but I knew I had a lot to learn. At the time, but by the time I got to you guys, luckily for me, I have come across many other leaders and peers that they showed me the ropes and taught me things, and I went to the
Yeah.
school and I learned. But yeah, no, and I feel confident. But a lot of time, I mean, I still like, I don't know. Let's see, let's learn together. So I think the arrogance that sometimes you get from people, to me, is insecurity.
Mm.
Sometimes you see somebody who's arrogant. I want to say perhaps he's just masquerading his true feelings. I'm not sure you heard the analogy of the cobra, right? I think
No,
Bruce
please,
Lee
please
coined
share.
that.
Please share.
So I remember my days of martial arts. They say, hey, if you go into a place and you don't know how everything is gonna play out and you feel in danger, like the cobra. So basically the cobra, when the cobra is insecure or in fear, she will stand up and become tall and wide and say,
Mm,
here I am, but she's just scared. So sometimes that arrogance, people, to me, that would be like a real world example of what we were talking about earlier before we came on. It's just, to me, sometimes it could be a masquerade or a mask. They just want to show that, pretend or portray that they're the best thing ever. When sometimes it's the it getting in the way and the
say it.
ego is not regulating the it.
Gotcha. You
So
ever, not to cut you off, so that's deep. That's deep right there because you do see that from time to time at workplaces, sometimes in schools, or just day-to-day life, right? You're going to the grocery store, and all of a sudden this guy's getting, for example, he's getting something for menudo or mofongo, and he doesn't know, right?
menudo,
He
yeah,
just
mofongo.
he's looking up some stuff on YouTube, but you're like, hey brother, get this, get that, and he's like, man, I got the list right here. What are you talking about? And you're the subject matter expert. You're the expert. You're the SME. You're like, hey, I make mofongo
Yes.
every weekend. I make menudo every other day. But no, you
Yeah.
can't tell him anything because he has, or he or she has this thing already in their head, and
Yeah.
it goes back to
They
that.
think they know.
They think they know, but when they cook it, it's not going to taste the same as yours. And you've been doing it for what,
Mm-mm.
X amount of years, years and years and years. What I'm saying is, you
That's
can't teach
right.
an old dog new tricks. It's kind of like you can lead a
Mm.
horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. It's very cliche to say, but it's so true. It's so true. Some people don't want advice. God forbid you go to a person and you're like, hey brother, that's not how you do that. Get away from me. Yeah, it's how you do. That's how I've been doing it in my
Yeah.
in my other job, brother. I'm help. Yeah, no, kick rocks, leave. Okay. Hey, if you want to do it like that, be my guest. And then it comes to find out they should have listened to you.
That is so true. And to me, every time I hear that, it's like, oh, you've been doing this for so long, but that doesn't mean that you be doing it right. And that's why I mentioned earlier, I would love, when I see you guys coming out of AIT, advanced individual training, you think you know how to upload the radios, but maybe there's a new equipment that we don't know. Right. So then you go, hey, big son, I got this. And you show me, say, oh man, that's incredible. Oh shoot. Matter of fact, let me take note. Let me tell you a little secret, a little known secret. Maybe I talked about this in my podcast, in one of my podcasts. And it's whenever I went to y'all. I went to this unit that I was foreigner to it. Just recently went to the training and really did not much, right? So that advanced training, I was a senior NCO. When I went to there, they really, kind of leave me alone. I always participate, but I was pretty much free reign. And so I remember at Bragg, actually, I took a private, an NCO, sergeant or staff sergeant, and then a peer and somebody perhaps from the evaluation team or master gunner or whatever. So I started with the private. They showed me how you do this, how the start thing, when you start hammering, all that good stuff, the drills. And I see how he did it. And I told him, okay, then I go. I want you to teach me and supervise me and correct me whenever I'm wrong. And they look at me, they look at their rank, they look at my rank on my chest at the time of the chest, and they're like, but I said, hey,
Yeah.
dude, don't worry about it. You know it. I don't know it. I need to learn. If I want to lead effectively this team, I need to know what you know. And then I share what I know. And then we meet at the top. And to me, that's important because as men, when talking about ego and not being humble and being arrogant, so this part of a society tied this self-worth into three things that I like to call it for this podcast, the three S, right? We are being taught since we were young, particularly, and I'm probably going to say for us in the Hispanic community, you have to drive. You got to drive hard. You got to be the best ever you can be and everything like that. Just like the commercial army commercial, be all you can be, all that stuff. But a lot of times it's a society, right? So these three S's, I call it strength, success, and status. So as men in particular, society always want to tie self-worth on strength, success, and status. So in order for you to make it to the top, you have to be sometimes brute, success at all costs, and status. Hey, I make it. I'm whatever. I'm second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, sergeant, first class, captain, whatever, CEO, executive, high executive, senior executive, whatever you want to call it. And that then what happened is, okay, that's great. But what happened if you're not humble and then you fail? What happened if you get criticized in public? What happened if your ego gets checked? That's when the humble person would be, okay, let me step back. Let me analyze what happened. Do an AR, right? After action review, as we call it in the Army, or introspection for those that may want to use a different terminology. And then, look at yourself and put all to the side. Because when we talk about ego, as we said earlier, all this thing, right? The ego, and the super ego. But ego nowadays, the way I look at it, and the way I have studied for years, and some of my colleagues, is about the self image and self personal identity or self brand. Everybody want to have a own brand. Man, there's this ego podcast. In my case, Lead Wise Leadership. Whatever I'm doing at the time. Or Lead Wise Alliance, which is my organization. I want to be the best. And all that stuff. And if we're not careful, and we may fail, or we may, like you said, we may fail to accept feedback or criticism. And that's when people who are not humble go into ego preservation. And that ego preservation is like the one what you said earlier. Hey, big son or big guy, whatever. Let me just show you how this thing is done, brother. You're not doing it right. And they become aggressive. They
Yeah.
become on, denial. And they start displaying all of this that I like to call it ego preservation,
Ego
because
preservation.
don't stain my image, because I had to be at the top.
It's funny that you mentioned that, and I know we both like books. And one of the books, the viewers probably get tired of this. One of the books I always mention is the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Mm,
And
yes,
every
sir.
law, there's a law called guard your reputation with your life. So much depends on it. And people don't want to ruin their reputation. They rather have somebody else take the fall for them, right? Like a cat's paw. Hey, go do this for me. Go over there and go do it for me. Hey, you failed, not me, right? And they want to keep that image of themselves, the high and mighty, the perfectionist, the can do no wrong. But everybody around them, the definition of good leader is making everybody around you better,
That's
better
right.
than you.
Wear yourself out of the job.
Exactly. Do the job that I'm doing
Hmm.
now in my shoes, but better than me. That's
That's right.
like I think that's the number one goal from a good leader is to take my job at one day and do it better than I did. And let that person that you're teaching do it better than you, and it slowly builds up. But once you see that somebody else has this arrogance about them, this you said ego preservation, everybody around
Hmm.
them is gonna
Ego
fail.
preservation.
There's
That's
a
right.
saying. There's a saying in Spanish. Dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. Tell
¿De
me
quién
who.
eres? That's
Yeah,
right.
tell me who you hang out with, and I'll tell you who you are. If all the people that surround you are failures or are troublemakers or uh, XYZ drug dealers, whoever you want to call it, then you yourself, by associating with them, are giving this image to the society, to the public that hey, I'm gangster too. Hey, I'm this, that, and the third. But it goes the same way whenever you're in a leadership position. If everybody around you is failing, PT test, maybe financial issues, smoking illegal substances, then you as a leader should step back and be like, what am I doing wrong? Am I not telling these service members or my people what to do and what not to do? Because at the end of the day, everybody's an adult. Everybody's going to do whatever they want at the end of the day and suffer the consequences. It's instilled inside of you to let them know, like, hey, you know, just outside conscious, if you do
Mm.
this, XYZ is going to happen. Second and third order effects. Think about it. You want your money? You want your money? Hey, do your little time, get out, take your benefits, go to college, and do whatever you want. But right now, focus on you, man. Focus on your job. Focus on what you can control. That's what I wanted to
That is
tell.
so stoic. That's so stoic. Focus on what you can control, and I like that. And I'm so happy that we've been studying some of these philosophers, and I never forget my first year in college, way back in the day. You probably were not born. I'm not gonna age myself here, but you probably were a little baby, just to my benefit. And I came across these philosophers, Mark Aurelius and all these guys, and that was the first thing I was like, well, you cannot control the outcome of other folks, or you cannot control other, but you can control your emotions. And if you can control your own emotion, that's your ability. That's a man. That's what mans do. Okay, a man is not that one's gonna throw a little tantrum. A man's tantrum, like you said earlier. I never saw you throwing anything like some other folks, what we were in or whatever. And because that is so contagious, man. That is very contagious. And then you're gonna become guilty by association, like you said. And I'm a firm believer, man. We are at 80% of the people that we surround ourselves with. And I know I maybe misquote or mispronounce the quote or whatever like that, but we become who we hang out with. If you hang out with people who are so
100%.
intelligent and they have money and they strive to become better and they're good people, they help other people, they teach, mentor, coach other people. Hey man, you're there for a trip, but for a good trip, man. And as opposed to, as you mentioned, you hang out with the wrong crowd, you become one. I mean, it's inevitable, man. I mean, is human nature. It's human nature. I mean, think about when you first joined the army. You probably never came across your head the word Roger as an affirmative. You probably did it maybe on games. Not, I don't know. In my case, Roger, I'm like, who's Roger? What he got? What I'm saying is like we start conditioning ourselves, and before you know, you start using that lingo, and your vocabulary, your vernaculars change. You don't, inadvertently, you don't even realize is this happening. So imagine if you hang out with the good people, let's say with people with good Christian values, people with a good principle that they want to become better. And that's not about money or anything like that. Of course, we want to, have enough money in our pockets so we can help other folks and everything like that. That's to me, that's very important. But yeah, absolutely, man. You become essentially who that person that you become is based on the people that are surrounding you. Like the old saying goes, it
100%.
takes a community to raise a kid, right? Because you learn from this guy in school, you learn from the school teacher, you learn from the basketball coach, you learn from the pastor, you learn from the priest, you learn from the dude in the street doing the wrong thing, and maybe you learning what not to do because hopefully your parents are the good, positive people
Yeah.
that are around or surround you will tell you, hey man, just like my parents say, hey, look, stay alert,
Yeah.
stay
Yeah.
awake, stay alive, like they say in good old
Back
basic
in the day.
training, man.
Yeah.
So
Stay awake, stay alert, stay
I
alive.
don't know how it goes now, but
That
uh-huh.
it hasn't changed
So
much. Hurry up and wait. Stay
that's
alert,
good.
stay alive. Same thing. So you haven't missed much out much. But I will say, if you said something about hanging out with people that you associate with, if you're the smartest person in the room, get out.
You need new friends.
You
You need
need
new
you
friends.
need you need somebody that's smarter than you, so you can learn from them, right? And I'm not saying like
That is true.
don't don't treat others like with disdain and get away from me. You're not at my level. No, 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 no. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you're in a meeting, make sure you sit on the side where people that know their stuff are talking about their stuff. The people who are briefing, people who are talking about a subject, again, subject matter expert, SME. If they're talking about a certain subject that you don't know, make sure you pick their brain. You dissect it and get little bits of information for you to grow. Because if you're the smartest person in the room, there's a problem.
You know,
There's a problem.
well, actually, this is actually just saying, what's his name, last name, that's Brown. He said, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you need a new friend. I mean, you need a new group of friends. You need to leave that room, and whatever. I mean, you went to recruiting. Why recruiting always constantly change people? Because whatever you learn in this station here, and you become successful, say, okay, hey, Sergeant G,
Yep.
I need you to go to this other town and help these guys. And essentially that's what the army really does. That's why we PCS, right? Permanent change of station, because whatever good we learn, we just take it over to the next spot. Sometimes we
100%.
bring the bad habits too, but it's part of the process. But that's the whole intention behind it. Always
Oh yeah.
constantly move around and surround yourself with
Smarter people.
smart people.
You got to, Sergeant,
Absolutely.
because if you don't, you're not gonna grow. You're not gonna grow. We need to grow as people, as society, as leaders. We need to.
Uh-huh.
And sorry, I'm messing
Yep.
around over here. But the next topic, humility as strength. The power of listening. You mentioned the power of listening, learning, and leading without ego.
I don't know how much time we have here. So you said humility and strength.
That the humility is not that power that pushes you to do better, to be
Right.
better, to know that, to be that self-awareness, like, hey, I don't know everything. There's these manuals about this equipment. I don't know this equipment. I have to read the manuals, or somebody who knows about this equipment can teach me.
I gotta tell you, like the best leaders I ever had in the army and out the army, there were people who show humility, 100%, 100%, and there were the guys who were actively listening to you, and they're mirroring you, and they empowering you, and that to me is very important. And I know we probably talk about like Mandela. Look at Mandela. That man spent time incarcerated, and if you ask the people who were around him, there's a book that I'm reading. Actually, I have not finished that chapter just yet. Is the life God blesses, and that's chapter 9 talks about 9 or 10 talks about like the life of Mandela, but the life of the people around him and how he never broke because he knew he had to be there, and he knew what, the consequences of what he was doing for his country and what his ideals and his belief, whatever you think of the man, he stayed there humble, and he stayed there and helped others.
He was in prison, right?
Yeah, yeah, South
Yeah.
Africa. Yes, sir. So I mean, and like him is many, many, many people. And to me, that's a leader of level 5. And I know you like to read books. Maybe we can talk about it one day if you invite me again. The 5 levels of leadership, and the level 5 is the pinnacle of leaders. And a leader who become a level 5 leader. And there's many people that talk about this. Many of them is John Maxwell, which I have an honor and privilege to be a coach and a certified trainer for the John Maxwell team, John Maxwell leadership team. And as he always teaches, is like at level 5 is those people, Mandela, Dalai Lama, all those people. That guy that 5 o'clock in the morning you call and they respond. That person is a pinnacle because that person already show you the way, train you, empower you. And I'm not going to get into the 5 levels of leadership here today, but we can certainly come back around another time. And to me, that's very important because to get to the pinnacle, you have to use humility as your main strength. It's an African saying that goes something like, if you want to get there fast, go by yourself. If you want to arrive good, go with a team, right? With a group of people. However it goes, I may chop it up a little bit, but if you want to arrive safe and secure and get to the top, you go with a team, or you go with a group of people. It might not be fast because you have other with you, but then you're gonna make it. So it's like saying, it's not just make it, it's know how to make it. So you need team. And in order for you to lead a team, you have to be humble. You cannot be no arrogant, bitter, sourpuss, whatever you want to call it, leader or CEO or person in charge, or even a parent. You don't need that. You don't want to be a dad or mom. It's always grumpy. Get away from me. No, you wanna listen to your kids. You want to listen to your spouse. You want to listen to the family around you. You might want to look for guidance. And a humble leader look for a coach and a mentor. And that's, I'm so glad that in this industry or in this field or in this way of life, and I love it, man. Just coaching other folks and mentoring other people, it just brings a lot of joy beyond the monetary, because my motivation is come within. My motivation to do this type of job is internal, it's intrinsic, to seeing people grow. I mean, seeing you become, a United States Armed Forces class. Where are you now? Matter of fact, I'm not gonna say Sergeant First Class, Master Sergeant Galarza, making sure that we, manifest that, right?
Let's
So
go.
seeing you coming all the way to the senior NCO is very gratifying. And I know we had our conversation when you were coming up and you're a young soldier and everything like that. So I was already getting paid. So I was just talking to y'all, hey man, do this. Because why? Because it's paying forward. Somebody did it to me, somebody showed me the ropes. It's many things sometimes that you don't know. You can say, hey, trooper, keep it up, man. And you keep on going.
Yeah.
And that word be like, Sergeant G said that. Keep it up. I'm doing good. Oh, hey, I'm squared away. I'm the biggest thing here in the motor pool or here in the field, whatever we are, right? So I think the whole thing of a humble or humility is also you need to incorporate. And I know this I always talk about psychology because that's what I'm very passionate about it. And I know we talked about of the area earlier, positive psychology. You want to positively encourage people to do things because what happens in our brain when you get a word of encouragement, the cylinders go fired up. Those what do you call it?
The neurons.
Endorphins or whatever your neurons and they just start going and sparking, going. I was like, okay, so he say, keep it up. Hey, I got this. Like I said earlier, if you get a task and your soldier do the task and you say, hey man, good job, or even to yourself, you want to hear somebody every now and then say, hey, high five, man, or let me recognize this person here in public because that's for one showing humility. Two, you encourage others to do the same because it's a good feeling when somebody recognize you for a job well done, and then after that you want to do it again. And as leaders, that's what we want. We want people or our team members to continue doing the good job. Hey, and I mean, I'm not saying that if you didn't do a good job. I'm not talking about. I'm gonna give you a ribbon or a trophy for participation. I'm not talking about that. Hey,
Yeah.
if you didn't do good, guess what? Go to the bench, think about it, and we go to practice. I remember in soccer. You play soccer. You know the deal in football. What is it?
Yeah.
Hey, okay, guess what? I remember one of the coaches that we had for my kid. Hey, coach that poster, he'd be like, "Oh, we're not gonna talk about right now after the game. Guess what? We're gonna sit down here and we're gonna drink the water, whatever we need to do. But on Monday, guess what? We're gonna do this drill 100 times, and you're gonna be better. And then when you're doing good, and then you get the positive encouragement, the whole positive psychology. You're gonna, okay, I made this pass here. I make a croqueta and it was good, and whatever, right?
Cool.
So you always want to encourage your people. You always want to
Yeah.
encourage your people to do good. And then whenever they're not doing good, we need to be also reminded. We need also be reminded that we're not the last Coca Cola out there in the desert. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
you need to be like, hey, listen, you're messing up, buddy. Come on, Sarn. Hey, how many times, man? How many times you mess up? You know,
I get it, but I'm also well aware that I don't even as an evaluator how prestige of that position is. I don't know everything, and there's still things I learn as I go. I'm like, okay, now I have to read this and make sure I'm doing. Yep, I'm doing it the right way, or no, I'm not. But I have that self awareness that to know you can change. You can learn from the low, like I said, from the lowest totem pole to from the person in the totem pole to the highest. And as long as you keep your head
right?
right and not just think that you are the alpha and the omega, you're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. Mr. Tirado, we're getting that close on time, brother, but I can't thank you enough for every wise words that have come out of your mouth. Thank you so much for telling me and sharing for with our viewers. I'm so blessed to have you and have met you in my lifetime.
Likewise.
I can't give you any more accolades than just a big thank
Hey,
you.
just being here, man. Just being here, having this conversation, having those even on text or on social media or voice or whatever. That's to me is biggest satisfaction. It's always making me feel good. And before you close out, I just want to say we all have made mistakes. I'm not saying everything that we talking about. This little bit of wisdom, these little nuggets of leadership and wisdom and a little bit of psychology, hey, I can attest you, I made plenty mistakes, and I be on that side of the it that I made it. I'm a big sergeant first class or big whatever. I'm in charge of a company. I'm first sergeant in position or whatever or whatever. I'm the big high executive. It's not that you made it, and then because I've been there, but man, I made it. Shoot, I'm here. Okay, hey, you do this, do that, and you become like a daisical, and then that start creeping up. And that's when it bite you in the ankles. And I've been there, and it's bad. Sometimes you get beat up like that, and you start going down the slope. And when you start going down the slope, you need to anchor yourself with all the stuff that we're talking about, and always reach out for other men. A man that you trust, and
Yes,
like known like and trust. Men of God, men, people that you serve with together, that you bleed and sweat together. That's to me is very important to
100%.
avoid this
And
egocentrism.
Sarento, thank you for sharing that because I was gonna you played devil's advocate too. I was gonna play devil's advocate and say, hey, we're all human. We're all bound to make a mistake. Don't think we're perfectionists. Don't think we never made a mistake in our life. Oh, we actually I would argue we learn more from our mistakes than our successes. Would you agree? We learn more
Oh, 100%.
from our failures, from being down and getting back up and knowing not to do that again.
Yeah.
We learn more than that than just,
Yes.
oh, we won, or oh, we gotta go.
Mm-mm.
No, that's easy. Learn when you're down. Learn when there's nobody around you and you have to stay late nights and you have to study or you have to pass this exam. Yeah, that's where you learn the most. But anyway, anything you want to leave the viewers before we say our piece and go eat some mofongo?
Oh, man, yeah, because I'm ready. I'm about to go downstairs and eat it up. Maybe next time I get some menudo to honor your moms and your abuelitas good food, man. But
No, for
no,
sure.
I just gotta say, live with honor, humility. Recognize that you're not perfect. Recognize you we are going to make mistake. Have action, because action will keep you pushing. And use the role of positive psychology for yourself, for your mindset, and above all, have a growth mindset. Constantly look out people like you, learn from books, and I know you have a book you want to share with us here,
I
and
do.
and everything it's in there, man. Just stay focused, and don't be afraid to failure. You know what I mean? Don't be
Mhm.
afraid to make mistakes, because you will make mistakes. Sure,
Yes.
we make mistakes all the time.
Embrace it. Not saying don't
Embrace the
keep
suck.
failing. Embrace the suck. There we go. There we go. Now I have this
That was my
book.
old saying.
It's still a saying. It hasn't changed. This book called The Courage to Be Disliked, right? It's an old
Mm,
Japanese phenomenon that shows you how to change your life and achieve real happiness. It focuses on Adlerian psychology. What does that mean?
love it.
Alfred Adler is I would say not the first one's Carl Jung, the second one Sigmund Freud, and I would argue the trio would be Alfred Adler, but he was I don't want to say not known as much as Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, but he was up there with them. Basically, it's a discussion between the philosopher and the student, and they're going back and forth, and they're asking each other questions and answering each other's questions. But basically, it's an example would be I can't say I'm proud of you, right? And that would put me in a pedestal above you. I would say keep it going. Hey, don't give up. Keep going. Stuff like that. But when you say I'm proud of you, I would subconsciously put myself on a pedestal, saying, looking down, like, hey, you're not at my level yet. Keep going. I'm proud of you. Instead of you just say, hey, good tap on the shoulder. Good stuff. That's it. But
Right.
anyway, it's a good book. It teaches you to look at a different view when you say day-to-day things to people, to interactions,
Mm.
stuff like that. Definitely recommend. But anyways,
Yeah. Words mean a lot,
Sargento,
man.
they
Words had
do.
a lot of weight.
They do. I got nothing else. I appreciate you, and I look forward to making another podcast episode with you.
Absolutely, man. My pleasure. And you know the number. Just ring me up, and you owe me a coffee.